Hey, welcome to the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Cam.
I'm Luke.
And today we're talking about the 2025 film Opus, starring Io Debris, John Malkovich, and Stephanie Suganami. It's about Io's character playing Ariel, and she's a journalist covering. Well, she wants to get her start. She wants to write big time or just regular stories. She's not really getting a lot of she's not being able to cover a lot of things due to her boss, Stan, who is played by Murray Bartlett. Yeah. And so John Malkovich's character, Alfred Moretti, who just goes by Moretti, he's like this. You know, what's crazy here is that they said he's like better than MJ, Michael Jackson, which is absurd. But I mean, obviously it's movie purposes, but I guess I really needed to emphasize how big this person is. This film takes place in modern day.
I could almost say you could think of his character as like an Elton John type in terms of his personality.
Okay, I thought you were about to say he's like bigger than Mike.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I guess so. And so he's coming out with a new album after like I think 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. And he's giving out special invitations to people to come celebrate with him, kind of. I don't think it's just journalists. And Ariel and Stan are the two people that we focus on who get to who go on this adventure and see the wild things that go on with Moretti's personality, I guess, and his stardom, whatever. But I guess we could just, I think I say I guess every time I start with general thoughts. I guess we could just start with general thought, but let's just jump into our thoughts. You want to go first or me?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right.
So kind of background on why this is the movie we're talking about. I chose this week.
Mm-hmm.
Opus is one that kind of caught my eye when the trailer came out. I've started to recently kind of pay more attention to A24 films, where if it's an A24 label, chances are I'll probably show up. Because they're kind of this weird thing where you're either going to find like the trippiest experience and somewhat enjoy it, or it's going to be amazing and it's going to be peak. So it's like in this weird middle ground with what you get, because A24 like licenses out to like smaller filmmakers and helps promote their films bigger. Mm-hmm. So I'm seated. But thing is,
kind of like indie.
Yeah,
indie film.
Thing is, the showings for this were not in Mattoon, which is closer to here. They were in Champaign at 8:00, and I didn't really want to drive home at like midnight. So I'm a little late to the game on this one, but I finally got to see it. And it was kind of a mixed bag. I wasn't expecting it to have so many like pros and cons to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was really kind of a toss up on whether it was what's good about it, what's bad about it. But the good things first, because we had enough of me yelling about the cons and Scott Pilgrim, so we're going to chill out for a little bit.
We came back with Hannah, though, I will say that.
Yeah, and now we're stepping down. But acting, I do think this is probably one of the strongest highlights. Io Edeberry is one of the actors that I've been seeing come up a little bit more here and there. So I wanted to check out her performance because I've not seen her in too many things as of recent. And her performance I liked a lot. Same with John Malkovich and Murray Bartlett, as we said. A lot of the characters in this I really do like, as well as the actors that are playing them. It's also like just this really unsettling thing for like most of the movie. I kind of like that. I can't say it's like horror, but it's like a suspense almost. Not as much mystery, but suspense. There's like this... Shit, I guess it is kind of mystery, but there's like this mystery surrounding Moretti, and it's like, why is this the time that he's promoting the album? Why is he only inviting this set of journalists to go hear it for the first time? Why is he planning this whole elaborate performance just for them, alongside this big group of followers that he has with him that are basically a cult? So there's like all this mystery going around with it, and I like that. It kind of adds a lot. Mystique, I guess you could say, to everything. Oddly enough, this movie is also labeled as a musical. Now, I don't really think it should be, which may or may not be a hot take, but the music in this movie is actually a lot better than I expected it to be. All the music, for the most part, other than like scores and themes, is Malkovich's, not Malkovich, he's the actor, but Moretti's songs from his new album. and they were actually pretty good. Like, I
Mhm.
was kind of surprised. Normally, I just thought it was going to be like some random singing, but it was actually pretty decent. I was interested by it, and yeah, I'd probably buy a ticket and go watch a show or something.
Okay. He seemed like it'd be a good performance to go to. I remember the costume, the silver one. Yeah.
Like I said, with like an Elton John type, for like if you're showing up for the concert, you could picture that, and you've kind of got a similar idea of how Moretti and his shows go. Things that I didn't care for as much is I think we had too many actors in the core group, if that makes sense, for like characters, where some of the attention obviously shifts more towards Io, who's the lead, so obviously, and I have no problems there. And then you get stuff with Moretti, Stan, which is Bartlett's character, and then Jorg, who is one of like the waiter servants, is part of this cult, who's played by Peter Dyseth. And I don't know why, like his character specifically for Jorg sticks out to me. It just does. Maybe I just have a soft spot for like these innocent characters in these like high intense suspense thriller movies. But outside of that group of characters, there's like 3 or 4 others that are in this main group, but I just don't care about them. And their relevance isn't that huge for anything. Okay. So it just kind of felt like, why do we need scenes involving them if they aren't really adding that much?
I think they add context, and it brings more attention, or because more people are getting impacted by the big reveal, or the big, I don't know what the word is, the big scene at the end, the climax. At the end.
We can talk about that more too here a little bit later.
Yeah.
Some other things. The cinematography for me was just kind of There wasn't anything that was like hugely outstanding, other than cameras kind of looking up at Moretti, which kind of emphasizes like he's this grand, larger than life type figure. And I know 1 or 2 other movies we've talked about this semester, and maybe last semester as well, have had that kind of thing. But outside of that, it's just kind of there's not much happening. There's a lot of like tendency to do top-down shots of the compound that they're all in, and then like inside some of the rooms and stuff. And that's cool, I guess, but it was just I didn't have any strong feelings towards it, or any strong like dislike feelings for it. It's just kind of The plot was also another one that I noted. It was enough to capture my interest, but it felt like the motives for the finale scene, and we'll get into that more later, felt a little depthless is not a word, but without depth, I'd say. It made sense on paper, right? And it sounds like it'd be good, but watching it, I just didn't care for it.
Okay.
And that's more a me thing. It's not like an objectively, this is bad, but just me thing. But I want to talk more about that in depth later on, so that's where I'll leave my general thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest. I had a good time watching the movie, but I could watch it again too. But just really wasn't one that stuck out to me. The main thing that kind of was in the back of my mind the whole time is I feel like I'm being oversaturated with these cult type movies, these 90 or 100-minute long one setting movies that are about cult, and I love cult movies really. But after a while, I feel like I'm just getting a lot recently. You get The Menu. What really stuck out to me with Midsommar. I feel like this is just not a ripoff of it, but just I've seen this before. I know, it might have a different ending, but it's kind of like the same thing. Midsommar, The Menu.
Review in the Den.
Yes. And I just watched one, Blink Twice, with Channing Tatum.
Midsommar and Blink Twice I've not seen, but I've heard mixed results on both of them. So I wonder if my opinions on this would have changed had I watched those before coming into it, because they're all like similar type movies.
Yeah. And what was that one movie called? That doesn't. What was the weird one with?
The weird one. Was it Midsommar?
No, I mean that was weird too, but it was one I didn't name right there. We did a review on it. It was with Barry Keoghan.
Saltburn?
Yeah, that wasn't a cult movie. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, but it kind of had like similar vibes.
Yeah,
you could say.
But yeah, those 3 movies, Midsommar, The Menu, and Blink Twice. I just kept thinking about that the whole time. Like, man, I've seen this 1,000 times, 3, but this one couldn't stick out to me. Now Opus, you got that. And like Luke said, the ending just didn't really do it for me. It sounds really good. Like, oh man, they're always going to be around forever. The name, the objective, everything was calculated perfectly and exactly how we wanted. But what do we really get out of that? Where do we go with that? They're just around, like your leader isn't here anymore. He's in jail. But I guess to still be able to preach the word of Moretti, whatever. I will disagree with you on the cinematography. I really liked the lighting, and there were some kind of pop colors at times. There was one scene in particular. I don't know. I think since I've been doing this podcast, and ever since I've really started to love movies, I started looking at things differently. Not to sound like a douche, but there was one scene where they were walking outside, and I just noticed they had like red flowers, and I feel like anything on the film says they're on purpose, or unless they just that was literally.
See, I didn't catch that. I didn't think about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It just stuff like that. I don't know. I just like pop colors, and this one, and the lighting in this looked really sophisticated. But yeah, I know that good runtime though, about 1:40. A24, like Lou said.
It definitely didn't feel like it dragged at all.
Not at all.
That's one of the other things, like on my notes, that's in there with where I wrote plot down, is like it's interesting enough that you'll keep watching it
For sure.
because the runtime doesn't drag out and the scenes don't last too long or anything.
Yeah, 1:44. Yeah, pacing is very well done in this movie. I think Io does a really good job at that character, like when she's cut off at times and her facial expressions really sell it. But yeah, I did like the side characters, even though they didn't bring a lot to the table. It just lets you know kind of everyone's perspective. I think in these type of movies you need these side characters. In A24, I know Luke said they kind of have like it's you're 9 times out of 10 if you 9 times out of 10 if you see an A24 logo before movie starts, you're probably gonna be interested. But there was one instance where I was not interested, and it became like my least favorite movie. And I don't know if that's where my most hated movie of all time, The Lighthouse. I think that was A24.
I forget. You did not like that movie at all.
I loathe that movie. I think that was A24.
It sounds familiar, like it was. It might have been.
It's whatever. But yeah, like I said earlier, the runtime was very. I don't know. I'm one for short movies unless like it needs to be long. This was not a movie that needed to be long. Yeah, it was A24. But yeah, I think those are my thoughts.
I want to backtrack to something you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You said with this like cult-like movies thing with Midsommar and Saltburn's not really one, but kind of has the same vibe. But like those types of things, you said that you feel like you've seen this before.
Yeah.
So I pose question.
Yes.
What can movies do, not just this movie specifically, just in general, do to make things not feel the same like that, specifically for like the cult-like genre? Like what can they do to make it seem different compared to the others?
It's a hard genre to kind of shift the narrative of because it's such a niche thing. Because it fits, the broader would be thriller or horror, and then you narrow it down to niche. But I think just off the dome, without putting any thought into it, I think if, somewhat, or the gruesome level, I think if you change that.
Yeah. Like how much gore
is in it. And I'm sure there are movies out there like that. I don't think I'm too familiar with it. You do that, you change the direction of the film, and like the protagonist kind of accepts that lifestyle, which all these could be movies that already exist. I'm just saying. So you do that, you change the gore, change the protagonist wants to be in it, you change the type of activities the cult does. Most of the time, it's just like killing.
Or like weird ritual type thing.
Yeah, and I get that's what the cult is, but something different in movies. Just
I don't know.
Name.
I was just kind of wondering on that because, like, in a similar sense, movies dealing with like the mafia and mob and stuff have kind of been like that for me. Where like I've seen this before in every single thing. You may change characters, you may change some aspects of the plot, but there's always going to be some sort of like theme that is the same across all of them. So. I just wanted to see like what you thought about that, like what could be changed with it.
But you could change the time period. Like I said, a lot of these are like modern day cult things. Menu, they had iPhones. Menu, they had iPhones. Midsommar, I think they had phones. They took their phones in this movie. So
maybe you can make a short film about the Salem witch trials, and the protagonist joins and becomes a witch.
yeah, something like that.
Something different.
Yeah, but yeah,
I'd watch that actually. I'd check it out.
I'm not opposed to it.
But I want to dive into the ending aspect of the movie a little bit more.
Okay.
Do you want to go first and tell your thoughts, or you want me to dive into this?
I can go. The ending. So, I guess we'll kind of spoil it. So, pretty much what happens is Io's the only one that gets away, and she writes her book. Excuse me. She writes her book on everything about what happens, but she never gets an interview with Moretti until one day she's in the middle of an interview and she gets a call from his publicist or whatever. Like, hey, he wants to meet you. Like, okay. They meet in a jail cell, and he's kind of like being snobby, like, you just wanted to interview me so you can sell a few more copies of your book. You don't need to, you don't actually want to give people the family's piece or whatever. And what we get out of the ending is like, Moretti is like, you did exactly what we wanted. We invited you specifically, which is kind of telling at the beginning because she's not writing any stories. So she was specifically chosen, and everyone else was specifically chosen for their bigger cause, which was just getting their name out there and just letting everyone know about them. And even though Moray's in jail or in prison, the people that were already a part of the cult are working normal jobs. As your regular shoe salesman, working at the grocery store or whatever. And, they're just still around, even though their main leader is not. And we end with a clip of Io in another interview, but the interviewer has some pearls that were once shown earlier in the film with the cult. And so that's our signal, like, oh yeah, they really are around, even when she doesn't think they are. And then it cuts to the end. So what we're supposed to get out of that is, like I said earlier, they're still around. But I don't think I didn't really care too much because not that I didn't care. It was interesting, but I don't think it was enough for me. I wish I knew what comes out of that, because if you don't have your leader, then what? You just convert people into this. But what havoc are you? I don't know if you're trying to wreak havoc or
right.
what.
Like, are they just hanging out and having coffee on Tuesdays afternoon, or what else are they doing?
So I don't really know what comes out of that, because, like I said earlier, your main guy is not here to really bring everyone back together. Mm-hmm. And even he was on this 30-year, 20-year hiatus, but no one knows what he was doing. I guess he was a part of that cult, or he was just doing cult stuff, but he's in prison now. So I guess he can convert the other prisoners, but
yeah,
he really cares.
And that's something I mentioned earlier on when I was giving my general thoughts. Like, the ending's reveal doesn't have enough depth to it. And that kind of ties in with what you're saying, is like, what comes from this, right? Like, earlier in the film, Moretti says that he's a part of this, but they treat him as a god. So he's kind of their leader. But if he is and he's gone, then what's the group doing? But if he isn't, then who is the leader? And still, what are they doing? I'm missing the depth of their motives, basically. And I'm missing even more depth whenever earlier on, before we get into this ending, the kind of reveal on why this group of journalists was specifically chosen is because Moretti feels that they've all critiqued him in a wrong way, except for Ariel, who was called there to be the person to kind of like note take and record all of this, and then make the book, which then gets Moretti in jail and causes the cult to disband and spread their influence. Like how Cam said, they show up on the last interview before the camera cuts at the end of the film. But on paper, right, the motives for all this, it's like, this person wrote something I didn't like because it griped with me, or this person asked me an unflattering question in an interview. On paper, those things make sense, but they lack enough depth for me to not understand it. I understand it, but like enough depth just to care, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because like, we're both journalists, right?
I'd say I am.
Yeah. There's been times we have to ask those questions just to remain objective, right? Like you have to ask the uncomfortable questions sometimes. And yeah, people are going to be mad about it. But I don't think that makes an interesting enough plot point as a person that does that for a job each day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just left a little unsatisfied by it, I guess.
Anyone in the public eye, or that understands journalism, understands that you have to ask to get both sides of the story. Because if you're only saying one side of the story, that breaks one of the codes of ethics, which is like, well, I don't think it's a code of ethic, but it's like remain objective. You know, you got to get both sides of the story, so you don't just cover one side. You're like, well, if I said it doesn't, you don't need an example. I said it exactly how I was supposed to be explained, but yeah.
Yeah. Kind of along the lines though with this journalism thing. That is one thing I do like about this movie. I didn't think it was about journalists at all from the trailer. So I showed up and I was kind of surprised by it. I was like, oh my God, journalists. Yay.
Yeah. Love journalism.
A little giddy. But
journalism.
yeah, as much as I don't like some of like the side characters though, I appreciate them for the fact that they represent all the different aspects of it. Like you've got people from broadcast, you've got people from radio, you've got two people from print. I think there's one like influencer.
Yeah, magazines.
You were sorry, but yeah, but like you get that different melting pot kind of group. That being said, Stan's character. If I was Ariel, I would not be letting Bro talk to me like that. Bro's like, oh, well, that's why I'm writing it, and you can note take. You are pretentious, my guy. No, like I get if she's like just starting out, right, and like you kind of need to ease into that. She's been here for months, my guy.
Yeah.
Like, give her some credit. And then she write this book and get famous. So it works out in Ariel's favor. And not so much for Stan. Stan gets killed. But
yeah, he does it. Sorry, we keep going.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, he does a really good job of playing that like douche boss. And you get that early on because he keeps cutting her off. And I understand that. 'Cause my biggest pet peeve is getting cut off. So, you know, as soon as, you know, she's in the middle of talking, just comes through and just says whatever. So, yeah, the acting is really well done on both their parts.
I'm glad I don't do that to you or anybody else because I know somebody be throwing hands with me.
Cut me off?
Yeah, just in general, if I was like that, Tenny, like, because like I'm news editor right now, like if another reporter was like, oh, I want to go cover this, and I'm like, no, you can just take notes. I'm going to write the story.
Yeah.
Nah, not cool. Not cool.
Kind of a dick move.
Yeah, I don't want to be that boss. I like to think I'm a fun boss and try to be a fun boss, but that's not for me to decide. That's a different thing. Anyway, the only other thing I have written down right now is the deep thought, and I want to see if you have anything else you want to talk about before we dive into the deep thought.
I need to start bringing more. I have a few more episodes. I need to start bringing deep thoughts. Let me think. I don't think so.
All right. The deep thought this time isn't really that deep, if I'm going to be honest, because like I know the answer, like just legally I know the answer. There is kind of just one right answer to it, but it's the best that I could kind of think of. Are the journalists breaking the code of ethics?
Good question. Yes.
Yes. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that deep. It's literally just a yes or no answer. But for those that don't know in journalism, the amount of our like law pretty much just kind of ends at the First Amendment with like free speech. So all the different publications have this code of ethics from different groups that we have to abide by. And those are basically what our laws are. So for example, like if you, because you know, legally you could pretty much write whatever. If you write something potentially slanderous, it can cause libel, and then you get sued, and you pretty much immediately get fired because you didn't follow the ethics to, you know, check out that information. You falsely published something. So there's ethics that kind of keep all of us in check, or are supposed to anyway. Some organizations don't like to follow it as much as others. But so watching this, you know, like just me being a journalist, I was thinking about it. And they get like the gift basket and the invitation thing. The gift basket technically is breaking it because you can't like accept gifts and whatnot, but like the gifts disappear after that scene. So whether they kept it or not, I don't know. So the invite itself is not wrong. the one that really calls it out is the fact that they sat there and ate food that they gave them. Because that's another thing, is that if you're going to cover something and a person's like, well, let me take you out for food while we're doing this or whatever, that's breaking ethics, because then it makes it seem as if they're buying you out to write about them or cover them.
I have a question. Or keep going. I have a question about that.
Okay. But the only other thing with that is, like, if you, instead of having them pay for you, you offer to pay for them or do separate checks, then you're fine, because you're not being quote unquote bought out by them. So yeah, it's not that deep. It's just kind of a flat, yes, they are breaking ethics. But Cam, what would you like to talk about?
If you're on a resort or wherever they're from, an isolated island, or are islands already isolated?
I mean, technically. But.
Okay. If you're out there, where else are you supposed to eat?
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of right.
There's no McDonald's.
Not kind of, you are right. Like, where else are you going to eat? I don't know. They don't have a Amazon or Uber Eats or whatever. But, like, normally I'm pretty sure if you were going to, like, go away for this trip, you'd have to research it first and be like, well, if we can't do that, like, you'd have to renegotiate the terms and be like, no, we can't because of ethics, and explain that. And that can cause day-long conversations. Maybe they just didn't think about that. I don't know.
I mean, if that's the only basis your
Oh, no, that's not the only example. Trust me.
Oh, okay. I'm like, where else are they supposed to eat?
Let's go into the magical land of what ifs for a minute. Let's say that them eating the dinner and stuff is perfectly fine, right? That doesn't break ethics. The amount of sexual tension during the listening room scene has to be breaking something. Because they're like, actively causing conflict of interest by physically getting close and rubbing up all on each other, basically. Which is kind of creepy, because Moretti's in like his 70s, 80s, and here's these journalists in their like mid-20s, early 30s, and he's like,
wow, yeah, that's a gross noise.
But that's what he's doing, and I'm like, guy, chill out.
But girl, they be throwing it to what's dude off Full House? Or what's the guy off Full House?
You're gonna hate me, but I didn't watch that show.
It's not that crazy. You want
somebody else will.
I came off like in the John Stamos. He's not that old, but you know, women. Well, yeah, that is a big age gap though. Whatever. But yeah, that definitely break. I like to think of it as, if you out reporting, you should not be having fun with whatever's going on. That's how I like to think. Like, if they're doing something here, like some arcade, they have an arcade thing, or like a kickball or whatever, I shouldn't be participating. I shouldn't be having fun with.
Definitely shouldn't be participating.
Yeah, so that's just how I think of it.
There's no whimsy in journalism. You're strictly stepping on business.
Telling the truth and not being afraid.
Shout out the Daily Eastern News.
That's our slogan. Yeah. I did have, or were you going to keep going?
No, I was just going to restate. That's basically just the end of the deep thought. It's not that deep for this week.
I did have a point that kind of, I mean, you could kind of tell earlier, but like the attention to details the movie had. There was a point where, who died first? That was getting the massage.
Yeah, the massage person disappears. I don't remember their name because they were one of those side characters that I just didn't care for.
Yeah, I think it was, I want to say his name was Martin. Rosario Dawson's in this?
Hold up, what?
I did not know that. What?
Rosario Dawson's in this?
Yeah.
Where?
I don't know. It says she's here.
Huh.
Did not notice.
We're learning a lot this episode, gang.
Yeah. But anyway, one of the people that were getting the massages, they die, and later on in the film, when they're doing that listening scene, there's only enough chairs to account for the people that are still alive, and the chairs were already set up before the other journalists got in there.
Ooh, I didn't know. I didn't think about that.
So I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, those are all the thoughts I have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all the thoughts I really have too. I'm trying to find like better ideas for deep thoughts too. This one I was like really on the fence with that for the deep thought this week, because I was like, there is only one right answer for it. Mm-hmm. So it was like, is that really a deep thought anymore?
Yeah.
But it is the best I could think of.
I want to come with a question next week, depending on what we watch.
Yeah.
But you want to go into ratings?
I think so.
All right, me or you first?
You could go first.
I am going to give this movie a 3. I think it is above average. can't give it a 3.5. Like that's a little too high. I can rewatch it. Just I feel like I'm oversaturated with these type of movies, even though I love this genre. It was one of my favorite. I think it still is one of my favorite genres. It might have been my favorite genres for a period of time when I was younger, but yeah, it didn't. Yeah, just a 3. It's a little bit. It's above average.
All right.
Luke.
I will also give it a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
It's a little mid, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It does some things that are good. I enjoy the acting for the most part is probably I think what carries a lot of this for me, especially Ao Edebiri. Debris. We've messed it up like 7 times this episode. We're so sorry if you're watching. But, you know, yeah, I think acting is definitely the main part of it. The plot is interesting enough for me to keep watching it, and I do like that it has the short runtime. It's not like making you sit here and like fall asleep as you're watching it. But like, yeah, it feels like something that makes sense on script, but in execution just kind of falls a little bit short with some of the motives. I wish there was more depth there, like how he said, you know, after this cult kind of reveals themselves, now what? So yeah, just a little mid, 3 out of 5, I think.
Yeah. All right then. That's been our review. This is. I wish I knew what episodes we were on. Whatever.
We're in the higher 80s. I think we're getting closer to 90.
High 80, low 90s. But yeah, thank you all for watching. This has been the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Cam.
I'm Luke.
And we will talk to you next week. Bye.
Peace.